What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Oh My Growth. My name is Mindy. If you want to skip to the actual episode, you can probably skip like a minute or two forward. I just want to give a quick life update. To start off, I want to apologize for being inconsistent. Here's what's been going on. I have been traveling maybe a little bit more than my body has been able to actually keep up with because I am indeed sick again, but I've had a really good time. I went to a wedding in Greece for my friend's mom, and that was really nice. Such a good time with my friends. After that, I had a little bit less of a fun trip with my family, but we're not going to get into that. It's a little bit personal. I've just been traveling a lot, and I guess I did not plan properly for having enough episodes to upload. Here's also the thing, like, I am struggling with imposter syndrome right now, where I feel like the podcast and my socials are actually starting to get attention, and that's so nice and like really fun, and I'm so grateful. At the same time, it's so hard for me to like believe in that because it's still very new and it's still the beginning of what I hope to be a really fun and like long journey with all of you. But I have a bit of imposter syndrome, so I don't think I realized that people would even notice if I didn't upload an episode, but it was noticed and I was asked, and I take that as a massive compliment because thank you for wanting to listen. So I'm going to be better. And if I miss an upload, I'm going to be better at communicating that and why. I am going on another trip now on Sunday, and I'm going to be going on my first like paid influencing trip, which is really crazy to say out loud. I'm still in shock and kind of surprised that they want to pay for me to go to this trip, but I'm over the moon, to be honest, and like really excited because it sounds like such a fun opportunity. I'm basically going on like a conference-ish thing. I don't really know how to put words to it, but it's like a conference slash retreat where influencers from around the world. Like 10 of us are meeting and discussing and doing master classes to do with influencing and influencing culture. And it's really cool, kind of tied to one of the universities in the Netherlands. So I'm going to be going to that now on Sunday. So I'm actually going to bring my equipment. Not that I have a lot of equipment right now, but I'm going to bring it, and I'll record the next episode while I'm there so that I don't miss another upload. So it's a little bit of a life update, but I'm going to be documenting that as much as possible on my Instagram. If you want to follow along, it's ohmygrowth.pod. And yeah, but let's get into the actual episode today, which is about toxic friendships. The reason why I want to talk about toxic friendships is kind of, I have a 10-year-old sister, and I'm not saying that my sister like gets bullied. That's not what I'm saying, but more like I get to hear a lot of stuff from her about just kids and bullying culture. And I remember when I was younger, I had a lot of really good friends. I will say I went to a really good school, and overall I'm very happy with like my scholastic experience. But I think most kids have some sort of experience with bullying culture, either that they've been bullied or that they have bullied, or maybe even a combination of both. And this doesn't just stop because you become an adult. Like, there is toxic friendships, like they occur in adulthood, they occur in childhood, they occur in teenage years. Like, there's always the possibility of landing in a toxic friendship. And toxic friendships are so hard to break out of because they're also really hard to spot. Since when you have friends, and if you are someone who is very empathetic and like you want to just make other people feel good, maybe even a little bit of a people pleaser, me, then you will probably struggle if you are finding yourself in a toxic friendship because you don't know how to get out of it or even how to spot one. In my current life, I will say I don't have any toxic friendships, not any I can place my finger on anyway, and I'm very grateful for that, but I have had them in the past, and I know what it feels like. And honestly, like a friendship breakup, I've witnessed them before. I don't think I've had my own personal, like, friendship breakup, not a dramatic one anyway, but I have witnessed them from people in my surroundings, and they can like hurt a little bit more than romantic ones because romantic breakups usually stem from like something real, like a real issue, and you spend a lot of time with romantic partners in a different way. And so if that ends, like, you do kind of get a closure in a different way. But with a friendship, it can feel really gray zone the whole time, and it can almost be more painful. So today's topic is how toxic friendships show up both when we're young, how they evolve when we grow, and also how you can spot the patterns and understand the psychology in a way and feel okay with walking away from a friendship that isn't serving you. We'll start with toxic friendships when you're young. So, like young ages, I'm not talking 2 or 3 years old because it's a bit hard to even reflect on your friendships at that age. But when you come up to an age where you start thinking and reflecting and like learning about who you are as a person, that age, in general, that's a very confusing age for people. Like, I see it in my little sister. I don't envy her. It's really hard to be 10. It is actually. I'm not saying that in any with any kind of irony. It's really hard to be 10 years old because suddenly you're entering this phase of like, whoa, there's a life here and I need to figure it out. And you don't have that before because you're just a kid and you don't think about much outside of just playing. But when that fades and it's not just playing anymore, it's also thoughts and emotions, things get tricky. I started off with this section because it is important to just kind of recall as an adult now how maybe you acted when you were younger and where your behavior instincts came from and maybe how those affect you present day and who you are today. Because a lot of those things could live on, but recognizing them could be the first step to actually changing that in adulthood and knowing how to look for toxic friendships in adulthood by being aware of maybe toxic patterns that either you had or some of your friends had when you were young. A lot of common signs when you're young when it comes to toxic friendships would be, for example, exclusion, like cliques and third wheeling, which unfortunately is really common in society. Whoa, sorry, my voice. It's very common in society to have those kind of cliques forming. And I mean, that's amplified as well in the movie industry. For example, in High School Musical, you can see there is all these cliques, and that's how they're introduced as well. And of course, like, the point of a lot of those movies is to blend the cliques and show that you can be friends with anyone, but there are cliques. And that is something that is very common in especially bigger schools. But even in small ones, there's always a couple people who somehow are on top of the chain of, kids and who's popular and who's less popular. And so there is a lot of exclusion and cliques in schools for kids. A second sign of like toxic friendships in youth could be possessiveness. Like, you can't hang out with them because you're my friend, or you can't be friends with those people because you're friends with these people. And that kind of possessive behavior can be really confusing for kids because you don't know how to set boundaries in a way and you haven't learned that yet. A third common sign when you're younger when it comes to toxic friendships is mocking, but not necessarily like mocking someone directly. It can be disguised as teasing. So it's more of an indirect bullying where you tease and you're just like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. Like, stop crying. I didn't mean it that way. I was just joking. But the truth is, when you're joking and you're making jokes, you need to be a little bit careful because some things aren't funny. And that's something that's been a really big open discussion in my house with like my youngest sister more recently, just like distinguishing between what's funny and what's mean and what's teasing in a loving, playful way and what's like bullying and not very funny. But it's hard for kids to know that, and it is something they need to learn. It's a gray zone for a lot of kids. And the fourth toxic common sign when you're younger could be needing to act a certain way to like be accepted by other kids. So you feel a need to be friends with certain people, you feel a need to be a certain way or have certain, I don't know, like games you like to play or whatever to fit in. And this is also where I can't speak for it because I'm not a child and I'm not in school right now, but I would presume this has gotten a little bit better over time. But I remember when I was younger, there was still a lot of just distinguishing between what's girly and what's more boy-like, and if you're more of a boyish girl or if you're more of a girly boy, like that was a big thing for me anyway, growing up, and something I would think about. Not necessarily towards me. I have always been a very girly girl, but I observed it and I found that confusing anyway. A psychological insight on this, because I don't know, like maybe someone who's listening to this is a parent or a concerned sibling who has younger siblings that they want to take care of and protect. But kids often mirror attachment styles that they see at home. And it is really important to keep that in mind. If you have young people in your household, what you do is going to reflect onto who they become as well. I'm a firm believer in that, like, kids' behavior, that is still the responsibility of the adults in their home. As soon as you become an adult, it becomes your responsibility. Like, if you have grown up in a crappy household, that really sucks. Like, really sucks. And it can take time to break out of those patterns and relearn those things. But it is your responsibility after that time. But as a kid, it's not. Like, it's not your responsibility in that way, because there's no way for you to make those reflections. Your brain's still developing, you're still little. So kids mirror what they see. And it doesn't only have to be parents, like it could even be that they mirror their siblings. If you have a really chaotic child, there is a chance that the kids that come after will mirror that kid if they look up to them just based on what they get away with or how they treat their parents, and you want to be like your siblings. You can see that in a lot of siblings that are close in age. They follow each other and one does something because they see their older sister do it, and so they want to be cool too. It's a responsibility if you're an adult in that household to mirror what you believe are good characteristics. So don't underestimate your power as an adult in their life. The second psychological insight is this fear of rejection that kids have. That all humans have, but it starts when you're young. Like, you have a fear of rejection, and that can make you stay in bad dynamics, even if they're not good for you. You stay because you don't want to be excluded. You don't want to be alone. You don't want to be playing alone. Like, you want to play with other kids. And so there is a higher chance you're going to just jump onto the trend of being mean. I did this. I will admit, I was not a nice kid. I'm not proud of everything I did up to the age of like 12, because I think when I was 12 and I started like middle school, that's when I started to actually act in a way that I feel like represents me as a person today. But before that, no, I was not very pleasant. And that wasn't because I had bad dynamics at home, truly. Like, my parents didn't model any rude behavior or anything. And when I've told my dad more recently, like, oh, I used to do this when I was my sister's age, he's like, what? I didn't know you were mean when you were young. I hid it from them, but I wasn't very kind, and it wasn't when I was alone, because if I was alone, I was a pretty nice kid. Like, I didn't want to cause harm onto anyone, but I did have a tendency of wanting to be friends with the most popular kids. And because I wanted to be friends with the most popular kids, I also did things that I'm not proud of to like fit in, and because I was scared of being rejected by the popular kids. I wanted to be one of them. I wanted to be a part of their group. And so, yeah, I mean, that does affect a lot of children. But like, the reason for that is just because kids have an easier time confusing that as loyalty, like loyalty to their peers. And it's not uncommon to want to be seen and be heard and be one of the people who is at the top of the food chain, like that is appealing to a lot of children, if not all almost. But that's also because you haven't learned what to look for yet. Like, you're still figuring it out. And as a kid, you're kind of just taking in what you see and making the most out of that. And so it can be really hard to navigate. Let's move on to how this changes in adulthood, because it still exists when you're an adult, but it's trickier. And it's almost worse. Adults can be really snaky. And when I say snaky, I really mean snaky. Like, a lot of adults can be really snaky. And I don't know what it's like to be a boy, okay? Like, most of my experience is between girl friendships. That's the experience I have to take from. The first one is when you're giving support, but you don't get support back. This is unfortunately common. Especially if you're someone who likes giving support and being there for other people, looking out for if other people give you the same energy could be a good indication of if it is a friendship that is good for you or not. Because Friends who are friends for you, like real friends, they do want to support you. If something happens to you, they do want to support you. If you need something, they do want to support you. They can't always support you. Like, it's impossible to be there for someone all the time. Like, you also have to of course think of yourself. You're not a bad friend if you prioritize yourself at times, you know? But the want of wanting to support that person should be there. A good friend wants to support their friends. So if you're giving support constantly to someone, but they never give it back to you, and they're never there for you when you need them, they're never there last minute, but you're always there last minute when they need you, that might not be that great of a friend. And this is just my opinion, but yeah. The second sign of an adult toxic friendship is that they minimize your growth or they compete with your growth. Everyone is on different timelines. There's just no way that, like, everyone's going to be at the same place all the time. There could be phases where your life is going freaking amazing, but your friend's life is not going that great. But then a year later, maybe that flips. And suddenly they're living the best life ever. Everything is working for them, but your life kind of sucks at that point. That's just how it works. Like, life is not going to be amazing all the time. And it's also not going to suck all the time. Like, everything passes. Everything passes if you give it time. And sometimes you need more time. So everyone's on different timelines. That's the point I'm trying to make. And there's just no way to compare because there's no point. You can't compare with other people because every action you take is going to change your outcome of your life. And it's just too complicated. Like, there's just no way to compare with other people. So if you have a friend who, when you grow or you manage to do something or break through, they either compete with you or they minimize that growth and say that it's just not that important, or they make you feel like you're actually, like, not doing that great, whatever, and they make you feel bad about it, that's not a good friend. That is not a good friend. Good friends want to support you when you grow, and that's back to number one. Good friends want to support you. When something good happens for you, good friends are happy for you. When something good happens for your friends, you should be happy for them. Like, that is just kind of a bottom line of a friendship. Why otherwise would you be friends with someone if they're not happy for you? The third thing is being passive aggressive when it comes to, like, guilt tripping. So honestly, this kind of relates to number two because, like, if something good happens for you and they just go, must be nice, and they make you feel guilty for things that are good for you. And maybe if you have a really good relationship and they're going through a bad patch in their relationship and they're like, oh, must be nice to have a boyfriend who gives you flowers, or, oh, must be nice to be taken out on dates. That's not a very good friend because that's not being very supportive or kind. Yes, it can be really rough if your life sucks and your friends' lives are amazing. Like, that can be really tough. I've been in positions where I've looked at friends and I've been like, damn, damn, I envy you for sure. And that's okay. There is nothing wrong with envying someone. That doesn't make you ungrateful. It doesn't make you a bad friend. You're allowed to envy people at times. But what makes you a bad friend is if you use that against your friend and you make them feel bad about themselves. The fourth thing is leaving conversations with your friends and feeling drained. If you feel drained after conversations with your friend and not filled or, like, good, it is an indication of that friendship maybe not being so good for you. Good friendships and supportive friendships and ones that help you grow and reach your goals, they don't drain you. When you've spent a couple hours with your friend, do you feel empty on energy, like completely drained and exhausted? Or does your body feel good? Your body is a great indicator of what's good and what's not good for you. I mean, I've seen so many. I don't think I've experienced this personally. I don't know. I can't tell. But I've had friends who have been in not good relationships, and during those relationships, maybe they have really bad acne, or their hair is, like, not feeling good, and their body, and maybe, I don't know, like, a lot of different things. And then when they're out of that relationship, they thrive and they glow up and they're just so beautiful and they just sparkle. And that is your body. Like, your body is such a good indication of how you're feeling. So if you feel drained and exhausted when you're with someone, that is an indication of that person maybe not being good energy for you to be around in the first place. Often you feel drained because of something in the background that makes them not that good of a friend, you know? And it could be any of the above 3 signs that I spoke about or something completely else, but not a good sign if you're feeling exhausted after hanging out. Now, why does this happen? Like, why do toxic friendships occur? I have 3 psychological insights I thought about for this episode. The first one is trauma bonds. The second one is if you're growing and they're not growing. And the third one is if you're healing from something. And I'm going to go through them. So the first one, trauma bonds. Trauma bonding is when you connect over pain and not over peace with someone. So you're connecting and you have this friendship because of something bad that happened. I will say this doesn't have to become a bad thing. Like, my friendship with one of my best friends started because of kind of trauma bonding. Like, I was in a bad place, she was in a bad place. We hung out a lot, but it was a very supportive environment. Like, I never left her home feeling drained ever. I never left feeling unheard. I never left feeling anything but like good and supported. Like, it was such a good girly, supportive environment, and I really needed that at the time, and so did she. So it doesn't have to become a bad thing. But trauma bonding is a little tricky. Like, you need to have some kind of good balance there when it comes to how you support each other. Because if you spend that time and you're in a really bad place and they're in a really bad place and you become friends because of that, but all you're talking about is like the negative aspects and the negativity, that's not going to help you grow. It's not going to make you feel better. It's not going to take you where you want to go. But if that friendship and that trauma bonding is focused on how do we heal from this, like, let's talk about it so that we can grow. What should we do that's like creative to get ourselves out of this slump? Like, those kind of conversations, great. Like, that's just personal growth. That's amazing. And that's what I experienced. But you need to be a little bit cautious if your friendship starts with a trauma bond, just so that it doesn't become something you then feel stuck in. And this leads into the second 2 points because it could actually lead to some further issues. So number 2 that I wanted to mention is you're growing and they are not growing. This could be a product of trauma bonding, perhaps, but it could also be because of something else. But if you are growing as a person and developing as a person, and the other person in the friendship is standing still for the moment, which is fine, by the way, like, we don't have to be growing every single day of our lives, but if that's the case, there could be some tension between you two. And if this tension grows and they aren't a good friend for you, then it could become like a resentment tension. Resentment tension leads to the signs that we talked about before. It could be passive aggressive guilt. It could be that you leave these conversations and you feel drained after. It could be that they minimize you or they compete with the fact that you're growing. The problem with this is that it is kind of human to feel that way, but as an adult, it is your responsibility to handle your emotions and regulate them in order to not affect other people in your life negatively. So if that tension happens, it needs to be monetized from both ends, and it is not your job in that case to minimize yourself or lower your level just because you're noticing that your friend feels bad because you're growing. Like, that's not your responsibility. It never should be anyway. You have every right to grow into the person you want to become. Like, you only live once, and if you're doing really well, then good for you. Great. Like, you should never have to pause that and put that on hold and make yourself feel worse about it if just because someone else isn't feeling good about themselves. All right? Like, that's not a good friendship. The third thing is if you're starting to heal from something. So let's say you're healing from a breakup. I don't know. Or you're healing from a loss. I don't know. Like, you're healing from something. That could also shift a friendship because it leads to point number 2. You're growing from something. And even like you healing, like, if you're healing from something that was really traumatic for you, you need all the positive support and positive just vibes that you can get, because healing in and of itself is hard. But not everyone is meant to grow with you. And that is something that is really hard to learn as an adult, but not everyone is meant to grow with you. They just aren't. If you're healing from something, that was really traumatic for you, whatever it was, and you need to take certain shifts or make certain changes in your life. It could even be moving somewhere new. I don't know, but whatever you need to do, not everyone is meant to grow with you. Not everyone is meant to go there with you. Not everyone is meant to last with you. And that's okay. It's okay. It might even be for the best for you both long term. Just never, ever, ever let yourself be minimized for someone else's benefit. Okay? Why is it so hard to leave these friendships? There are many reasons why it's hard to leave these friendships. It could be that you're in fear of looking like the bad guy. It could be that you think, like, oh, we've been friends forever. Like, I can't leave them now. That would be such a waste. Like, we've been friends since we were in the womb. It could be that you excuse behavior because you don't like conflict and you don't want to fight them. So you're just like, whatever, act like an asshole. Like, I'm just gonna sweep it under the carpet. It could even be that you have a hard time distancing yourself because maybe you have friends in common, or maybe they're family friends, and how are you gonna get out of that, you know? There's a lot of reasons why it is hard to leave friendships. But the truth is, the psychological truth behind this is, if you stay in these friendships and you become codependent in these friendships, you are tying your worth to making other people happy. And what is that going to do in the end? It's going to make you dislike yourself. Honestly, it's not a pretty sight. If you're putting other people first and you're tying your worth to their happiness, you are not doing yourself any favors. Letting go of something does mean grief, but letting go of something also means growth. And in life, you're going to have a lot of situations where you're going to have to experience both grief and growth at the same time. But those are the shifts that are going to possibly like catapult you into a whole new phase of life that could be so good for you. And I mean, this goes for romantic breakups too. There is so much grief when you go through a breakup with someone. But there's also a lot of growth potential for both people when that happens. And it's the same for friendship breakups. You can love a friend and still need distance from them. You can love a friend and still need to click pause in order for you to heal or grow in whatever area of life you need to. You can do that. That's okay. To close this off, this conversation, this discussion off, I would like to go through some green flags that you can look for in friendships, because there's so many. Like, there's so many healthy friendship traits that are beautiful to look for in people. One is you feel safe to be yourself. Feeling safe to be oneself is one of the best feelings in the world, in all relationships that you have. It is so nice to feel like you can be yourself, that you can say what you need to say, that you can have your opinions, and that if it becomes a discussion or argument, you can just have that as a discussion, an argument, and then you move on. It doesn't mean consequences. Like, good friendships shouldn't mean you have super big consequences for being your authentic self. Number two is they cheer for your growth. People who are cheerleaders for you and cheer you on and want the best for you, those are people you want to keep around. Number three, no guilt trips when you say no. No is a sentence in and of itself. If you don't want to do something, you can just say no. Like, there should not be any consequences for saying no to something. And good friends recognize that. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to go on a specific, I don't know, like activity or whatever. And good friends hold space for you to be yourself there too and have preferences. Number four, it being mutual. It's not a one-sided friendship. This goes back to a lot of points I was talking about earlier, but you want people who cheer for you. You want people who are there for you, who celebrate you, who support you. Those are good friends. A question I practiced asking myself, like as a young adult, when I moved and I needed to rebuild my entire friendship base because I had no friends here in Sweden, I used to ask myself sometimes, like, okay, who makes me feel like peace and who drains my energy? And it didn't always work out. Let's be honest. Like, sometimes I ignored red, green flags, whatever, in people. But overall, I tried to think about who makes me feel peaceful and who makes me feel drained, because that is such a good indication of where you want to spend your time and your energy. To close this off, it's okay to outgrow friendships. You're not a bad person for it at all. Outgrowing people does not mean betrayal. It means evolution. It means room for growth. And sometimes Healing means you have to say goodbye. Just because you share a past with someone does not mean you owe them a permanent future. That's not how it works. It's not a transaction. You can have a past with someone that's super long, but that doesn't mean they have a secured spot in your future. You get to choose that. You get to make those calls and those choices along the way. And if that means cutting out some people because they provide bad energy for you or they're unsupportive of you and your growth, that could be a cut worth making. And as with all these things, I do really encourage you to also look inward. Who are you as a friend? How do you show up for friends? Because this is always a two sides to every coin kind of thing. Like, if you're in a friendship that feels negative and that brings you down, also take a look at yourself. Always, it's so important. We can't miss looking at ourselves as well. It's not always someone else's fault, you know? But listen to this episode and just have a think. Like, are any of these signs present in your friendships? Are these things that you feel, and how do you show up for them? Model the behavior you also want to have in friendships. Like, if you're a good friend, then you're more likely to also make good friends and attract good friends. So go out there and be a really good friend, because people need more good friends. That's all I had to say. I will see you when I go on my trip on Sunday. And until then, I wish you a beautiful morning, evening, day, or night, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you next time.